soon. Hello, I'm Steffi Motal, 2021 AIA Austin President, and I want to welcome you to the first of 5 events in our Design Talks speaker series. And the first ever Austin Foundation for Architecture takeover of this event. AIA Austin is the Austin chapter of the American Institute of Architects. The Austin Foundation for Architecture is our sister organization focused on public outreach. And together we advocate for our community's built and natural environment, design excellence, and the work of Austin's design community. Before I turn things over to the foundation today, I'd like to express gratitude to our sponsors. As with all of our programs and activities, we could not do them without the generous support of our sponsors. And I want to thank and recognize our Design Talks underwriters today. Thank you for your support of AIA Austin. If you'd like to say hello and introduce yourself to the group, please do when I call your name. I'd like to start with Christine Chang and Carolyn Carabinas of Rogers O'Brien Construction. I want to note that our speakers today are the design team chosen to design the expansion of Austin's Mexican-American Cultural Center. And Rogers O'Brien is the contractor for that project. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you so much. That is actually kind of the little tidbit that I was going to let everyone know. We are more than excited. We are very blessed. We're very fortunate. I'm not really sure why the camera is not there for you to see my smiling face. But we are so happy to get a chance to work with the designers that will speak today. We are very fortunate to be part of this next phase for the MAC. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. And from Acme Brick, Steve Morris and Mike King. You can unmute yourself if you're here and would like to say a few words. Okay, scrolling through, I'm not seeing them. But thank you anyway, Acme Brick. Structura, do we have Rusty Morgan with us?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Great to be sponsoring again this year and looking forward to a great year.
Thank you, as always. And Dovetail Made, Sarah Scott and JT Lanier.
Hello, we're coming at you together today. So we're really excited to be sponsoring this series and get more involved with AIA as we're working on a lot of projects with all of you. And yeah, we're excited.
Looking forward to seeing what 2020 brings us.
Yes.
We're so happy to have you. Thank you so much for your support. And Den Properties, Brian Cady.
Hey, what's up, guys? Happy to be a part of the design talk and look forward to today's talk.
Thank you again to all of our amazing sponsors. And now let me turn things over to your host today, the Austin Foundation for Architecture. With us to introduce our speakers is Foundation President-elect Denise Hudak.
Myself. Thank you so much, Steffi, to you and AIA Austin for giving the Austin Foundation for Architecture the privilege of hosting this event. We're thrilled to share the work and design philosophies of this particular team of architects with the rest of the public. So now, a bit of a shameless plug here. If you enjoy this event and want to help us continue our mission and bringing architecture and design to all Austinites, please go to austinfa.org and make a donation. We thank you in advance. Now let's talk about our speakers. They are visionaries. Their work is diverse, poetic, rigorous, socially conscious, and site-sensitive. They're not just architects, they're educators, they're innovators, and intellectual trailblazers. As a team, they were selected to design the Phase 2 expansion of the Mexican-American Cultural Center. First one, we have Tatiana Bilbao Spammer, founded her practice, Tatiana Bilbao Estudio, in Mexico City in 2004. At the core of her practice, is the detailed analysis of the context surrounding each project, which scale from single-family residential to affordable housing and public space master plans across the globe. The studio's architectural work includes the Culiacan Botanical Garden, the pilgrimage route in Jalisco, and an institutional building at the Universidad de Monterrey, a research center on the Sea of Cortez, and a social housing prototype displayed at the 2015 Chicago Biennale, among many others. Tatiana has a recurring teaching position at Yale University School of Architecture and has taught at multiple universities worldwide. Her work has been featured in exhibitions around the world and has been widely published. The studio has also received numerous awards, most recently being awarded the Marcus Prize Award in 2019 and the Tau Sigma Delta Gold Medal in 2020. Now, then we have Juan Miró, FAIA, and Miguel Rivera, FAIA. They're principals of our own Miró Rivera Architects, a local architecture firm here in Austin for over 20 years. The firm's remarkable portfolio work includes a range of scales and typologies as well, from a pedestrian bridge to the restroom installation at Lady Bird Johnson Hike and Bike Trail, the Circuit of the Americas, the Chimaya Mission Hindu Temple, the Life for Austin building in East Austin, and countless residential projects. This lauded design firm has won over 100 design awards and has been extensively published and exhibited. Most recently, their book, Building a New Arcadia, was published and available to the public, and this was also featured in our AFA event last October. Miguel Rivera was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico. In 2000, Miguel moved to Austin and co-founded Miró Rivera Architects alongside his sister, Rosa Rivera, and brother-in-law, Juan Miró. A Barcelona native, Juan is the David Burton Jr. Centennial Professor in Urban Studies at the University of Texas at Austin, where he founded Studio Mexico and currently teaches design and Mexican architecture history. If you know me, you know I could keep talking about our speakers and their work and their accolades, but I want to give them time to talk about their work and follow up with a conversation and their thoughts about the importance of cultural centers in this COVID world. So Tatiana, Juan, Miguel, the floor is all yours.
Gracias. Thank you. What we're going to do, let me put the screen. Is this one? From the beginning. No, okay. Can you guys see me? Hear me? Good. Okay, what we're going to do, because we have very little time and we know that a lot of people are in a lot of Zoom and all that, we want to cut straight to be able to have a conversation. So what we're going to do is we're going to present two projects that we have done that are related to culture and Austin. And also Tatiana is going to also then present two projects that also are related to these topics. And we want to be able to have time for a conversation and talk about what it means to have this type of projects in our cities and the pros, the cons, the challenges. And I think you'll be more interested on this conversation than us showing the projects. But we wanted to break the ice by showing something. And Juan, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
You hear me? Yeah. Well, the first one we want to show that Denise made reference to in the presentation is the Chimaya Mission here in Austin. And if you go to the next one, Miguel, I mean, I think that this to us is one of the things that they shared with us when they came to us to tell us about the mission. It was, he's the person in the middle is the Swami that founded the Chimaya Mission. And I think to me, when I see this picture, in a way, it's almost like the notion of the party of the project of this courtyard where people can gather, and you know that are the notion of getting together around something. In this case, is the leadership of this founder. It was very inspiring, and it shows also the reality of a city like Austin, that the Hindu community here in Austin was large enough that they needed a place to celebrate their culture. And this is one of the things that cities are accommodating this type of new venues that were not necessarily, you know, in the radar of anyone, you know, years ago when Austin was not yet the city that we have now. So cities change, cities evolve, cities receive immigrants from many places. I am an immigrant, you know, it is a welcoming city, and the mission statement of Chimaya, we think, is very inspiring, because in a way, we know that it's related to the Hindu culture, but they very specifically say that anyone from any background is welcome to this very lofty mission of like making our society a better place. And this is something that we feel like is one of the main reasons why we need places like this, because we need that capacity of basically sending the message and teaching it to kids and to everybody that wants to listen. So in our case,
I think Juan, I want to add, sorry to, you know, we talk like that, Juan and I just, you know,
yeah, keep going.
I think one of the things that is important is a misconception of, I think, what people think, that a cultural center is for that people of that culture. Like I keep saying here, the Jewish Community Center. People think that's only for Jewish people. It's not. Or a Catholic school. You can be an atheist and go to a Catholic school. And the Mexican Cultural Center is not about Mexican American people only. They want the whole community, the same as the Chimaya Mission is open to anybody for any background. So while we might think that these cultural centers or these institutions are more inclusive, is the opposite. They want to be more open. And that's something that we're going to discuss later.
Yeah, and you know, this is the very quickly, and as Miguel said, we're not gonna go into all the details, but basically the concept was around a courtyard. You know, the notion of a courtyard is so inviting and about public space and gathering, and so that's how we organize the party in a very simple way. You know, if keep going, Miguel, because in a way the idea of a courtyard is so universal, but it's so easy to understand that you create a space and then you build over time. So there are two buildings only. There's a school, a gathering space for all kinds of activities with the kitchen, and then there's the temple that serves as a gathering space, and is very much in line with what a lot of these cultural centers have in common, that they need a very comfortable place to make people feel welcome and produce the activities that they are trying to celebrate in their facilities. So this is the view from the entrance. Keep going, Miguel. And
I just want to add that there was a master plan. We did the first two buildings, but the idea was to complete the courtyard with a second building that they have not done, and a third building, which they were thinking was a day school. So it's part of the master plan. Sorry.
And this is Miguel. You will want to talk about this because this is a beautiful moment in the project.
Yeah, the temple has three. The altar have three deities, and I think it was very interesting learning from them that this is where the deities will be located. So during the foundation, there's a ceremony where they have to apologize to Earth and Mother Nature, where this building is going to go, nothing will grow, no plants, no trees. So it's an apology for that, and then they have a ceremony that one is for the children, one is for the man, and one is for the woman. And that's a very interesting ritual that they had.
And it's part of the there's the specificity of each culture, but we're very interested in the commonalities. You know, how a building party can be so simply organized around creating precincts and thresholds, and how that's part of the Hindu tradition, Muslim tradition, you know, Mediterranean tradition. So the notion of creating that threshold, in this case using blocks, was very important for us to define a ritual for the four corners that are celebrated every time that they have an event inside. So it's a learning experience, and it's a beautiful moment when you learn about other cultures. Keep going, Miguel, so we can go a little faster. And then you know, the threshold defines an entrance, and then the idea of Hindu architecture inspiring, you know, in very simple ways, and interpreting the tradition that the highest point of the temple has to be always above the altar. And that's where we decided, you know, that we needed to have some type of element on the top that let the light in, that it was built in a very simple way, inspiring in Hindu architecture, that the Swami was fundamental, working with us in giving us guidance, but not in a heavy-handed way. And it was a very, very nice way to let all that information come to us. This is the rituals that they have in each corner. They have a deity, and they go around the space before coming inside. Go in. The blocks also were, this is part of that ritual. And then the blocks were also assigned to different positions of Shiva. You go to the next one, you know, this is all the positions of Shiva are assigned to each block. And that's part of the process.
It was also used as a donor place. The families were able to donate for the temple, and each family will have a stone.
Yeah, we need to accommodate that. And then at the end is that all the cultural centers is about teaching a culture, it's about promoting, it's about supporting each other, it's about, you know, bringing kids and learning about the culture that they come from, and then letting other people know about it. So the school is very simple. It has that place to leave the shoes that before entering, and it has a very simple plan with classrooms and the central space that is used for larger events, a kitchen. The central space is used for all kinds of things. The classrooms are very simple because they don't need any furniture, and it's very, you know, it's very much used, you know, for all kinds of activities related to teaching and cultural events related to the Chimaya mission. The temple itself is the one that has the spiritual function of the place, but they use it also for all kinds of gatherings. And this is the moment where the light comes in and the altar. And this is at the end what we feel like all these cultural centers are about getting the people together. We know that in this COVID world that we live, it's hard to think about what's going to happen. Chimaya Mission is closed, like the MAC and like most of these type of buildings. But this is to us what is beautiful about being an architect, to seeing the space being used. People gather, the need to gather for different type of events, and the way architecture can provide that positive, you know, message that, you know, we can learn and we can grow by gathering and learning from each other. Keep going. This one is, we're going to go a little faster on this, but this one has a special significance as we move into Austin. And this we did with our colleagues at Fluger Architects. And it was a very interesting opportunity because the Austin School District, the public school district, needed to do a performing arts center. And it was very, the process of selecting a site was very important. And for us was particularly significant because we were rooting for this site. It's a more urban site, but it's more importantly, is one of the first times, some people told me it's the first institution that is a public institution at the scale of the city that had decided to be located east of I-35. So this is symbolically very important because, as we know, Austin was a segregated city, and for a lot of people that never will go to the east side, this was basically an institution that invited everybody from the school district, but needed to come here for events, and it was on the east side. And symbolically, we think that those are the kind of things that architecture, urban decisions about where things go, where the layout, where these spaces go, can have a role in healing some of the wounds that cities that have gone through the segregation process that Austin went through it can help. Some people don't know about this, sometimes they may not know about it at all, but these spaces are spaces that serve many purposes. So it's a performing space, again, gathering, but we wanted to have also we have the urban obligation of doing something that is doing more than just fulfilling the requirements of the program. So this is a building that is trying to open to the street, and the activities that happen on those open spaces are more than just getting people in and out of the performance space. It's a gallery space for all the work of the students. It's a performance space for informal gatherings, and the district uses it for many things. And this is one of the beautiful things about these cultural institutions, that people come together. I hear all the time from parents say, "Oh, I went to see a concert, and it was beautiful to see that, the guitar, the whatever," and all kinds of people from even outside the school district going there to perform. they go there from different districts. So it is an example of how culture brings people together that don't necessarily will get together for other reasons. So we love to see the students, the art of the students, the ability for these spaces to invite people to come together. And then to have eyes on the street, so everything is visible. But at the end of the day, we have leave that one, Miguel. You went too quick, because what I was going to say is that the meeting and gathering in these kind of spaces is one of the things that cities need. We need private spaces, but we need spaces to commune, to come together. And this is when I think that we can imagine better future for our cities, is when we have enough spaces where people come together, even if they're not planning to be together, because they are not supposedly from the same circle. So when there's an event like this, everybody comes together, because there is a common goal. And those are the spaces that we need more of in our cities. So we're gonna live like this. We're gonna let Tatiana continue, and then we'll come back together, to continue the conversation.
Good afternoon. I'm very happy to be here with you, with all of you. Thank you for the kind introduction. And yeah, as Juan and Miguel were saying, we really have a lot of projects in common. At least the ethos behind the projects we do are pretty similar. And as Miguel and Juan are saying, I also believe the importance on the spaces that bring us together, spaces that really are able to create cohesive societies in order to really enhance communities that would definitely create a more sustainable place for all of us. And we have worked for several years, 16 almost, in June, it's 16, in a botanical garden in Culiacan. When we arrived to the project, the garden was already this very important place for the urban and social tissue of the city. Culiacan is a city in the West Pacific coast of Mexico, and north of Mexico City. And one of the things is that this city has been very much kind of represented by the crime and drugs that have happened there. But the city has really an important relationship with its nature, with its gardens, with its open public spaces. And this garden, the intention of the donor was to really be able to position Culiacan into the minds of people, not only in Culiacan, but elsewhere in a different way. So as being a space that was already a representative space for the city, for society, that it is also a large space, physically speaking, in the city. He wanted really to enhance the garden, the project, and bring more possibilities, programmatic possibilities for the space. So we were asked to create an intervention and add some buildings as cultural buildings, educational buildings. And but obviously when I arrived, this done by an incredible engineer, very passionate engineer, for me in my mind was kind of disorganized. So my immediate architect's mind thought we needed an organization path and creating something that would really make an impact in terms of organizing and admitting the new buildings. But then we very soon realized that this was the totally incorrect move, because if we would have done that, we would have violated completely the intrinsic nature of this place, how it was done, how it was built. And that was the basis for this social important space. So we understood that we needed to create interventions that would enhance spaces, but not necessarily change the order. The intuitive order which was done, we really embrace it. And we decided to create an intervention that would just, kind of enlarge the possibilities of this space. So for example, this water pond that we insert for ecological reasons, because one of the most important collections of the garden is the bamboo area, and bamboo needs a lot of much more moisture than it had before. So we introduced this pond, but we also wanted this pond to become a social space. So it is both doing kind of the actions towards the ecosystem, but it's also allowing people to, have different moments in the garden. Or for example, here we just open a small space for readings or gatherings, small gatherings. We expose the hydrological system, which is quite simple, very analog. It's just done by gravity, but no one in the no visitor would know how the garden would really survive. And we thought this was really interesting. We also kind of in clearings, we open and put some hammocks. So simple moves that would really allow us to bring the space into a larger audience possibly, but maintain and keep the roots of the place, literally, physically, and socially speaking. There was a very ambitious program of contemporary art to be introduced to the garden. So what we asked to the artists, I was not the curator is Patrick Charpenel, but in general, what the project asked to the artists was to make something that would really create the possibility of the public of engaging with art through nature, through the nature of the garden. This is a piece by Valesca Soares, a Brazilian artist, that really has all the pieces of art installed there right now. There are 30-something, 8 installed, but there are 52 projects that are being installed through the years. What they're really doing is opening different paths of communication with people that arrive here, not only for learning purposes, but also for recreational purposes, social, family gatherings, exercise, many different activities that happen. And what we did with the buildings is exactly the same, to understand how to insert little pieces in strategical points where we could open different possibilities for people to use spaces first that were not used, but also programmatic features that were needed in the garden to enhance the experience. So in this case was an auditorium that would open the tours. When you hire an audio tour, you get this 7-minute introductory video. But obviously when we created this space, which was a bit controversial because everybody wanted like an enclosed room with air conditioning, we said, come on, you're going to be 3 hours in a botanical garden exposed to nature. Why would you need to get in for an introductory text in a room? So we proposed this building that now has been used for any kind of activities that you can imagine, even a dog cinema night, which is super cool. But all the buildings that we're doing have kind of the same meaning, purpose, and an architectural approach, which is creating small pavilions that would definitely need to be together with other buildings that hold the functions that would then make the space functionally enough working so the activity works. But scatter around the garden, is strategically placed. In this case, it's educational service area, which is having an auditorium, a workshop, a room for workshops, and a service area. Every building, the architecture, its intention is to always remind you that you're in a botanical garden. So in this case, for example, you're in the auditorium, you want to go to the bathroom, you need to go out and go to the next structure. And yes, it's raining, you get wet, but if there's a bird singing, then you hear them. But our purpose was to make you really, all the architecture is reassuring you in the place where you are and your relationship towards the nature around you, regardless of the protection that these buildings could provide for the different activities. We did, as I said, we have done a series of interventions that are still growing on time. This is the north entrance, and what we did is really try to frame the entrance with an element that would distinguish the entrance, but also would provide a little bit of shadow for long lines of tickets. We hope. Not yet. Well, there's I believe almost 7,000 people entering every day, but there's no ticket to be paid. So, and we don't hope that that's the case, but we want to welcome a lot of people. Then there is the office building, which also again holds the activities, allows the people to do their everyday activities in a very comfortable space, but always reminding you that you are in the middle of the garden. The architectural concept was to create these pavilions that would have a structure from itself, that in a way they're like little shells that protect you from the exterior, but they're like one single structure. So the roof, walls, and floor is one solid, massive poured concrete structure that has no internal divisions, no internal repercussions. And then we were asked to do another set of buildings that were more technical, more for the operational part of the garden. And here we needed to do something cheaper, so we used a different material. But we kept the same strategies that we were doing since the beginning, which is dividing the buildings in the most possible way. So we create small interventions that have repeated buildings related to each other. And in this case, again, one material that becomes everything, becomes the structure, the aesthetic final definition, the acoustic protection, the thermic protection, and then it is like kind of an honest building that it's what it is, what you see, no? And our idea truly in this place was to understand how to integrate the existing nature with the possibility of this cultural social interaction. Always, for me, the importance of the reflection between the interactions among ourselves. If they become really these interactions where you can be able to relate even to the opposite other, then the way of understanding the possibility of relating with our surrounding at large would be even more potentialized. So in a way, for me, creating these possibilities of incredible circles of relationships, social relationships, will allow us to understand better how to relate to the environment as well. So 5 years ago, we were asked then, because of that, to do in a nearby city an intervention on the Central Park. And in order to understand that, the Central Park is here, we decided to understand the hydraulic and natural system of the whole city and propose a plan that would definitely focus on the park, the Central Park as the main feature, but understanding it as a system, as a natural system that has been kind of intervened and interacted with the city at large, and how we could like kind of reestablish the primary element, which is the park, as the promoter and habilitator of this system, of this ecological system and this social system for the city. So the thing is that this park has a regulating lagoon, a natural regulating lagoon that goes up and down depending of the season of the year. And so we needed to work with that and needed to understand how to really create the possibility of social activities, recreational activities to happen, whether the water is low or up. And so we created different stages, strata of the park that would allow you to have different possibilities through the year. And we knew in the beginning that there was coming a museum and an aquarium. And so we worked with doing the plan for the park, understanding the ecological, social implications of it, the recreational areas. We proposed many different spaces that were supposed to, not supposed, they are actually, and they're built. There's for the intention of the understanding of the possibility of staging relationship with nature. When we started building the park and consolidating the ecological part, because we needed to do a lot of regeneration and a lot of remediation, then they told us that, well, that they didn't completely like the idea of the project that they already had, the aquarium, and if we could design the aquarium. An aquarium, what they asked, which was intended to arrive here, to look like an aquarium. And for me then, it became this issue on how we were going to do an aquarium that looked like an aquarium, because first of all, for me, there's a very problematic issue with just aquariums as we know them, because I believe that they are this program that depicts this very nice mural done by Diego Rivera, man controller of the universe program, which is, we cannot go to that world, so why don't we bring it to us to display it, no? So how can we do a place in a beautiful natural environment with all this ecological system that we were recuperating in the park, and not again posing kind of this violation of nature, which sometimes aquariums do represent, no? So we were first thinking, how can we create a space that really allows people to understand the important relationship with nature and with that world that we cannot see. I believe that at some point, by creating all these aquariums that are kind of more of amusement parks than or anything else, are really banning the possibility of our society, especially children that are the most attracted to these places, to relate to real nature, no? To really understand that that is the life that it's out there. So what we wanted to do is to imagine that we found this building that nature took over, and then we, the architects, opened paths to be able to allow people to come in and explore what nature did to this building. So we imagined that there was a ruin, and the ruin was flooded with water that rose in 2200, and in 2300 we arrived and we saw all this life growing in this park. So when we encountered this building, we were able to open these paths for us humans to explore that nature that survived in the place. So for the building, you go up then to immerse yourself in the center, in this center that really welcomes you and then allows you to start discovering the place. As I said, our main idea is to always remind you that not only we cannot control nature, we are nature, and nature, it evolves, it's organic, it transforms, and it's ourselves, it's our life, and it's not us dominating it, it's not nature dominating us, it's us part of the same system. And as I said in the beginning, I believe that by creating the possibility of these sustained social relationships, we're going to be able also to relate to nature in a more interesting and important way. This is the ruin is under construction, and soon nature will arrive to invade this place and to be able to demonstrate us that nature is us and we're part of it. And just to finish and to open the conversation, and the thing that puts together MIA Architects and us is the MAC, the Mexican American Cultural Center in Austin, which for us is a true honor to be able to think, to imagine, and to more than anything continue and try to enhance the view that Teodoro González de León had for this, no? for this important space that can be that very incredible civic space for the city on Austin, that could become that door that opens itself to nature, to the river in front of it, and embracing the social life that it's embedded in by being in the site that it is in downtown. So with this, I would like to open for the conversation to start and to accept questions, comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tatiana.
Thank you so much, Tatiana. That was great, all of you. Thank you for sharing your work with us and for laying really good groundwork to some of the questions. And just because we have this beautiful image right here, I would like to ask, because I read recently that, Tatiana, you do not do renderings, and that you really like to work through collage as this really collaborative dialogue, and that really helps you bring multiple perspectives and just, you know, take the design process through a journey. And so first of all, it's, you know, how or have you seen that process interrupted, or what challenges, you know, do you face now, you know, now that we can't meet, we are sort of stuck to our own places? How do you reinvent that very collaborative process?
It's not that I don't do renders, but I don't like to use them as a representational way of in any way, because I think they fix an image that creates an impossibility to the other to imagine things. So it is a very, I think it narrows the vision and the possibilities of a project, no?
Sure.
And between the process of imagining the project, but also at the end as well, no? Because in a way, you're almost trying to direct how the building should be used. And I think that buildings need to accept all its diverse voices of every person that arrives there to make them themselves, their building. Yeah. No? So as I said, it's not that we don't, sometimes it's an important tool for different ways, but I really like to use other images in order to really accept the possibility of that dialogue. And in a way, I do understand that we're living in a very difficult situation at a very difficult moment, but I don't think that we will never subsidize the possibility of relating in public spaces, in collective spaces, in communal spaces, physically, not even with this, no, and not even with all the tools that we are developing. I believe that we really are humans. Our nature is social. And that is what is one of our most important characteristics, and one of the most important needs. No, we need the other to survive, to exist, because we are not able to provide for ourselves everything that we need to exist. So therefore, we are social beings. And we will be back to physical space, although all the tools that we are developing, digital, will help us and give us other possibilities in other ways. But I don't think they will overcome to the physical contact that we need.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Either Juan or Miguel, or both of you, as you all explain, you know, the different program components of the projects you described, you know, all of them have very site or cultural specific program requirements, but I know the common thread through them all. Do you see any of that program? All, you know, at the end of the day, these are gathering spaces, and like Tatiana said, we are social beings. Are there any major components of programs, you know, as you've done so many of these, that will be drastically different, that you see changing in a permanent way, not just a temporary way, because we've, you know, live a little different now?
Well, I think that what is going to be permanent is the ability that we have. Basically, technology allows us to do things that we couldn't do before, like what we're doing right now. That Tatiana can be in one place, we can be in different places.
Yeah.
That's something that I think is going to be permanent, that we are going to be able to get together through this method, Zoom, whatever method, in ways that we were not doing before. But I agree with Tatiana, we still are social beings and we need to have that physical contact. So there's going to be always that need. So it's not one is going to replace the other. We're going to add it to the ways that we interact, the same way that we added the phone and the telegraph and the email. So we have more ways to communicate. But the thing that for cultural centers is going to be interesting is that there's the cultural centers, in a way, they receive people and they welcome people, but at the same time, they produce content and they produce exhibits and they produce work and they want to show that work. And there's an ability now to show that work in ways that is basically possible to do virtual exhibits that are accessible to people that don't have the ability to go to that building. I was visiting yesterday at the MAC, a very nice exhibition of a Venezuelan artist that lives in Austin, that has lived in Austin for 21 years. And it was fantastic to see how we can now visit. We get to know these artists, even if we are not able to physically go to the MAC to see an exhibit inside. He did a piece outside, so you can see it outside. So, people are very creative, very inventive. So these cultural centers are going to continue to find ways to share what they have and to continue to produce content that is related to the activities that they like. And there will be technology. There is technology in a way that we had, but that we had not used this way because it was not needed. And now all of a sudden we're seeing that there's a much higher reach that we can get through technology. So I think that we're going to see those both surviving after the pandemic. We're gonna still want to have those physical gatherings, but we're going to continue to see a lot of the virtual world continue to thrive after the pandemic is over.
It's wonderful. I don't know if Miguel has anything to add to that, but I love the positive take on it. Instead of all doom and gloom, saying this is actually an upside and we can get a far, a bigger reach of audience to these cultural centers and push that diversity spectrum.
Yeah, I think all I want to add is there's different ways of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And I thought like Tatiana Aquarium was beautiful, and even the image of the interior of the aquarium was very, very powerful. And that's kind of the problem with architecture today. To some degree, you see architecture shown on the exterior. I just saw one of the Blanton Museum with these umbrellas, and I was not very excited that it's just putting this image of the outside when maybe I would have preferred to see an image from under the umbrella or so on. So when you just limit to just that image, which become very plastic, it doesn't have any essence. It could be anywhere. And I think with the MAC, one thing that is very important that we're hearing from people is how Austin is growing and is slowly marching towards the water, and they cannot keep going because the water is there, and how the MAC have to push back. And how I think we need to think how we can have spaces like Tatiana mentioned, the challenge of if you have an introduction and you have that TV, it doesn't have to be inside a room with air conditioning to see that. And we're fortunate that Austin, because of the weather and the way it is very open to having concerts outside or eating outside or being outside. And I think we're going to look at ways that we can have classrooms or activities outside. So I think with the COVID and all that, that's something that we're looking forward. How we push the building away and let the nature prevail versus the concrete. So that's a challenge, and we need to make that connection to the water.
You see the water as being one of the highlights. Well, just the sense of connection to place.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll let Tatiana Juan talk a little bit about that. When we are in this incredible location, when you don't see the water, that's something that we're hearing from the stakeholders. We don't see the water, the connection. So that's something that is very important. I don't know if you want to say anything about that, because I know you feel very strongly, Tatiana, about the
Let's hear
water.
it.
Well, we believe that there is an incredible potential on the location of this Mexican American Cultural Center that hasn't been exploited to its maximum possibility, which is this connection with the water. And I think that that really would give the possibility of this kind of transition from the city to the water, with MAC in the center as the important kind of a connector of these two realms. And I think that that is an incredible potential that this building has that hasn't been exploited yet. No?
So we see the effort that they've been doing. Many of you are aware of the Waterloo Park, the whole, project of the Waterloo Park, and the MAC should have the same level of energy as that. There's no reason why it should be any less. So we are pushing for that, for the vision to be at the same level. There's no reason that it should be below.
Plus, it has the capacity of becoming that point of really of integration, the Waterloo with the river called Lake, which I find really nice. That it's
Well, I don't know if you guys have any closing remarks. We have just a couple minutes left, 2 or 3 minutes, but otherwise, it's been a real pleasure having you. Thank you for allowing me to, to just speak about you and your work, and answering a couple questions so that the rest of our participants, I think, to your point, I don't know if they're all Austinites. They could be joining in from anywhere, and that is, a win for everybody.
Denise, I would like to just, and I think that we live in a time that we see the polarization of the country, the political situation, the conflict, all the demonstrations after the police brutality and the pandemic. So it's very gloomy in a way. We have this, and I wanted to finish with some optimistic kind of note, thinking that we have to believe that we can do, through our work in architecture and urban planning, we can improve, we can create the background, the places where all these things can improve for the better. And there is a possibility. Obviously, we cannot solve everything as architects, as urban planners. There's as a society, we have to take care of a lot of issues. But we think that there's a way for culture, and there's a way for public space to send the right message about inclusivity and about making places of coexistence. Like we said in the text that we wrote for this presentation, the cities cannot be places where we separate people. The cities have to be places where we come together and we learn about each other. And when people learn about each other, most of the intolerance comes from ignorance and from not seeing each other and not getting to know each other. So if we facilitate for people to come together, it's going to be easier to, at least we will put ourselves in a better path. So opening up, inviting everybody to beautiful spaces to come together, it can only be a good thing for any city. And Austin is in a good position to make that happen.
Yeah, I think, Juan, what I want to add to that is that it's kind of like, not the political part, but Kamala Harris was saying she's vice president because all the people before she did. And Austin, in the last, since I've been here, the last 20 years has completely changed. And I think this opportunity, we cannot forget all the people that done a lot of work to get to this point. And I think it's important that we continue to challenge the city, challenge the citizen, challenge everybody to do the right thing. And sometimes it's easy to do the easy thing, but sometimes it's hard to convince somebody, like Tatiana has to convince people. We don't have to go inside air conditioning room. And it's okay that you get wet going a little bit, to the bathroom, to another building. So we need to look outside the typical for the people that were before us to do the right thing. And I think this is a special moment to do that. We're ready for the challenge. We're good.
Yeah, we're all good. Excellent. Well, once again, thank you so much, all of you, for coming. Thank you, Tatiana, Juan, Miguel, for joining us. It's been a pleasure. I can't wait to see how the design of phase 2 evolves. And I think the best part is that, you know, one day we'll all get to enjoy it. We'll get a piece of that.
Looking forward to it.
Looking forward.
Wonderful. Thank
you very much. Bye, everybody.
Guys.
Thank you for joining us.
Bye. Our
Thank you.
next design event is April 13th with Snoeta about the Blanton's Public Plaza. Details to come in the Artifacts newsletter, so just sign up at the AIA Austin homepage. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
Okay, let's have lunch.
Yes, lunch. Tacos.
Thanks, guys.
Tacos.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Everybody.
You know, Tatiana, oh, she left. Never mind. All right. Oh, you're here. I don't know if Lina Murillo is still in the audience, but she had a question for you, Tatiana, that you may not have seen in the chat. If anyone has time to stick around and hear your response.
It says there is an idea that under design or under designed space is more resilient than something that's precisely and particularly composed. Do you think the pandemic will force us to create a new flexible typology that will serve many collective needs? Well, what I believe is that definitely there needs to be more than under designed spaces. I think that architecture needs to allow for the possibility of anyone to embrace the space in the way they want to engage with it. And I think that that architecture then needs to become this platform for everybody to be able to be represented within that space, but also that space allows them to do whatever any way they want to create their own existence in the space. So I haven't find the answer to that question, but that is the question that I'm pursuing, at least with the things that I do more and more.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
thanks to everyone.
That is that it does not necessarily mean that you that it's something that happened with the pandemic. I think it needs to be an urgent way of architecture moving forward.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.